it a little bit, and I'm going to tell you a story. Let me get it shared out to Facebook so people can find me. I'm going to tell them I'm out there talking about my trip going to Idaho elk hunting with dogs. Going to tell y'all about Cheyenne, Wyoming tonight. You know, while we were out there hunting with dogs, hunting elk with dogs, that was an adventure all by itself. But then the other part of the adventure was getting there and getting home. Both of those were not only challenges, but they were adventures all unto themselves. So, so there we have it. Waiting for a few people to get in here before I kick this story off. The microphone working like it's supposed to? TikTok keeps telling me that it doesn't hear any sound. That's because I'm not talking. I got to talk for it to produce sound. My link hasn't showed up yet. Okay, the link's been pushed out there. We'll have a few people join in. So this is about a trip that I took out to Idaho. We went elk hunting with dogs. It's only been done legally once in the 21st century, and that was my son and I that did it. We got the opportunity to participate in a hound study, and I got to say it was an adventure of a lifetime. Most fun I've ever had and got paid for since I left the military. That's no joke. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the military. I got to play with all kinds of neat toys, do all kinds of things in the military. But let me throw this picture up here and we can talk about Cheyenne. How about that? Look at those pictures. Look at that picture. What you're looking at there is we're rolling into Cheyenne, Wyoming at night. It was a like I say, an adventure all by itself. So you're looking at Cheyenne in the distance back in 2019. It was late. It was one of those long road nights where the headlights stretch out in front of you and the world gets real quiet. Blake and I had been rolling for hours by then. Actually, we had spent the night in Arkansas the night before. So we left West Memphis, Arkansas. And we're all the way to Cheyenne, Wyoming. The dogs had settled down in the back of the truck. Our gear was packed up tight, and it was just the hum of the road and miles still ahead. We were driving a brand new Toyota Tundra truck. First one our family had ever owned that had all the fancy self-driving features, you know, where it automatically adjusts the speed and maintains lane and all that fun stuff. I was driving when we were coming up into Wyoming, and truck was just staying in its lane, and everything was going great. I had set the cruise. We were rolling. Speed limit out there is 80, so we were running between 80 and 90, and the truck felt like it was helping carry the miles itself. We topped over, and there you could see it in the horizon, the lights of Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was just a glow in the city. It's different out there. There's not a lot of trees like we have here on the East Coast. It's very different. So we had decided we were going to camp this night. So we rolled on through Wyoming, through Cheyenne, into a rest area that's between Cheyenne and Laramie. We pulled into the rest area just west of town, decided to call it a night, parked the truck. The dogs settled in. Blake and I reclined the seats and settled in for sleep. Sometime about 2 o'clock, the dogs lit up. And when I say they lit up, they were barking their heads off. And it wasn't normal barking. It wasn't running game barking. This is what we call booger barking because they were barking at a booger. Every breath, locked in, focused on something. They weren't guessing, they were looking at it. I woke Blake up real easy. I said, stay quiet and get a weapon in your hand. Now, we had enough firepower in the cab of that truck to start a small war, but we didn't really want to use any of it. But we were out there in the middle of nowhere, and whatever it was that was out there with us was close. It was real close, and I couldn't see it. So I reached up and hit the button to make sure the interior lights would not come on when I opened the truck door. And I made sure I didn't touch the brake pedal as I was getting out because I didn't want whoever was out there or whatever was out there to be alerted that I was awake and moving around. Slow and quiet, I popped the door with my 9mm in my hand, and I eased out that door, stepping out slow and trying to make my 6'4" frame as small as possible. Now, if you've never woke up out of a dead sleep and gone straight into a situation where you might have to fight, you might not understand what this is all about. But I've been there before, but this time was different. I wasn't overseas. There wasn't any backup coming. See, where we were at in Wyoming, we were over 1,000 miles from home. Cell phones were not working. There were no other cars in the rest area, and there was no traffic on the interstate. We were the epitome of being alone. And that dark was the kind of dark that gets inside your head. I hadn't turned my flashlight on yet. I wanted to keep the advantage. The dogs were still flat hammering. They were barking every breath. Adventure Time and Bugle were both lunging towards the back of the box in the darkness, trying to get out. They could see what they were barking at. You know, dogs have got better night vision than humans do. I couldn't see anything. But just as I was standing there, a shape started to form, a big shape. The biggest shape I've ever seen in my life up close. That was alive. I watched the largest wild animal I had ever been that close to in my life step forward right towards the tailgate. It was a moose. It was a big moose. That moose walked right up and sniffed the dogs like he was trying to figure out what they were. The dogs were still barking every breath and trying to bite him through the dog box. I whispered back to Blake, "It's a moose." When I spoke, that moose turned its head and looked at me like, "What are you? And what are these aggravating loud little things you brought with you?" I finally clicked on my flashlight and started talking to the dogs, trying to calm them down. The moose just stood there for a moment, looked around, and then just like that, he disappeared back into the darkness from where he came. Eventually the dogs settled and the night got quiet again. As the morning sun was coming up, we stored our pillows and sleeping bags, got in the cab of the truck, and headed out towards Laramie. We found this small place to eat breakfast. Real good food, extremely good people. Nearly everybody in that restaurant worked for the oil industry, and they were fascinated with the way we talked. They were fascinated with the fact that we had a dog box on the back of the truck. And when they asked where we were from, and I told them TicBite, that really got the conversation going. Now, the part that people don't see, they see the pictures, they see the elk, they see the mountains, they see the adventure, but they don't see the long road nights, the sleeping in the truck, the dogs going wild at 2 a.m., standing in the dark, not knowing what's coming. And sometimes it's not a threat, it's just a moose that's reminding you that you are not in TicBite anymore. So, folks, that was 2019 in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And it was one of the best experiences I've had. Like I say, when I wasn't in the military. Biggest adventure I've had. So a little bit about Wyoming there. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. Gateway to the Rockies. I'll let you read. I'll read it for you. Tall trees, short trees, scrubs, grasses, and flowering plants, mountains, canyons, river bottoms, and prairies, all intermingle to form the landscape, the greater variety landforms and vegetation. More homes and habitats than there are wildlife. Fun fact, I didn't know this until I went out to Wyoming myself. There's more cows in Wyoming than there are people. Wyoming is a great, big, huge, empty state. And that moose that night was absolutely huge. So, folks, that's been my story of Cheyenne. I'm going to sign off for a minute. I appreciate everybody being in here watching. I hope somebody threw a couple of likes in there. You know, I do it for the likes. So, I got a phone call. I will talk to you later.